Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fintech Combine. I am your host, Kris Kovacs, and this is the series where we talk with, and yes, sometimes about, community-based institutions, their digital and business transformation projects, and we meet the innovators, entrepreneurs, and fintechs that make it all possible. On this episode, we're speaking with Austin Carroll, the founder and CEO of Warrant, about how her company is bringing marketing into the 21st century. So if you're ready, let's suit up and get out on the field. Austin, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you on the show. Why don't you start off by telling our audience a little bit about yourself and about your company, Warrant?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Kris. My name's Austin Carroll. I'm the CEO and founder of Warrant. Warrant came about because before Warrant, I was a marketer. So I worked in financial services, worked at Brex and Mercury, and even Capital One. And made Warrant to solve my biggest problem at those companies was that I spent most of my career chasing compliance and legal approvals for all the marketing material that we were creating. I felt like that was probably not the best use of my time for the rest of my career. So I wanted to create a tool that would enable marketers to really understand the regulations, the company policies, the brand guidelines, be able to dynamically check their material for compliance, route it for approval so it could get approved faster and get out there while still having a real audit trail for marketing. I always used to joke, like, no idea what we marketed last summer. But with Warrant now, companies can really see what marketing they put out to their customers or their members, and it becomes a really easy way to, create more marketing and get things approved a lot faster.
When most people think of marketing, they don't think of compliance and legal reviews and things like this. Talk to me a little bit about why that's so important in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's important in every industry. I haven't spent my entire career in financial services. I used to work in entertainment. I was at Disney. I used to work at a nonprofit performing arts center. And even then, I just remember my boss was really old school. She would take our blog posts, she would have me print them out, and then she would redline them, kind of like Mad Men style. And then I would go back to my computer and make those changes. Every single company in the world has a checklist that they want to check against whenever they're doing any kind of external communication. It's just in financial services, community banks, credit unions, our checklist is a lot longer because we are so highly regulated. But at the end of the day, it is just a checklist, and there are multiple people or gates that you have to get through to have a single communication go out to the public. The problem is I mentioned my boss used to have us print blog articles. This process hasn't changed that much since we moved from file cabinets to online. It's still a step-by-step process. There's still a lot of, checklists and a lot of uncertainty about what could actually be approved and get out there. But in a world where things are changing on a dime, that's no longer a great way to do things. You need to let your members and your customers know things immediately. We're seeing that now with obviously the fuel crisis. Wouldn't it be amazing if your bank let you know what you could be doing to kind of offset some of these problems? But the problem is in most community banks, credit unions, even fintechs we work with, it takes 4 to 6 weeks to get a single marketing material out there. So even though they would love to send you a beautiful email about what you could be doing with your personal finances, they just can't. It's stuck in a marketing and legal review process. So that's a lot of what we're solving at Warrant is how can we get this approved same day so that it can get out there and you can communicate with your members and customers.
I understand as a marketer how that could be frustrating, but how did you make the leap from that to being the founder of a company that makes it so much faster?
Delusion.
That's how a lot of founders start, actually.
I think when I look at Warrant's success and how we've been able to sign, major banks, major insurance carriers, credit unions, community banks, why have we been successful when a lot of AI agentic kind of platforms die in that piloting phase? I think it really just comes back to we care so deeply about the three personas that are involved in our workflow, being marketing, compliance, and legal. in a way that no one has ever really developed software for
Mm.
these three personas to collaborate together. I really do think we are the first that has actually thought about these are three very different people and they need very different things out of our product. And we've built a team that includes those three people. So every single
Mhm.
day, not only are we talking to these personas in customer interviews and sales calls, but we know them and we've lived the life that they live. We know what their frustrations are, and we're able to develop our product to hit those pain points. I
Mhm.
always like to joke it's like the one product that, marketing, compliance, and legal actually agree on, and all are excited to use. It's the only time they've ever purchased a software together.
You're probably right. So tell me a little bit about how it works, right? So is your solution generating the content, or is your solution, because there is certainly an AI component to what you've created, right?
Yes.
Or does it take content that's been created by human marketers and then shepherds it through the process? Walk me through how this works.
Absolutely. So, our product doesn't create content today, with the exception of employee social media posts. You can generate employee social media
Hmm.
posts within Warrant. That's really helpful for loan officers when rates drop. How can they, go from, hey, I want to write about how mortgage rates are the lowest that they've been in 3 years? Traditionally, they wouldn't be able to do that. But within
Right.
Warrant, they can go in, they can ask questions, they can generate a post, and then Warrant will dynamically check not only for regulatory compliance, but also
Mm.
for company policies, for brand guidelines, for potentially customer information or P&I that shouldn't be in there. It can really check anything, even something as dynamic as making sure that whatever someone posts in a car actually has a seatbelt fastened. It can check that intensely, and it will let them know exactly what they need to change. And then it will route it to compliance and legal review. And then on the social media side, it will automatically post once it's approved. So you're streamlining that entire approval process and letting that employee know exactly what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And that's dynamically the same for other advertising material as well. So maybe marketing creates a beautiful billboard. They can
Mhm.
upload it. Warrant will automatically identify, hey, this is a billboard, looks to be in the state of Florida, looks to be for an insurance product or a home lending product. What regulations apply? And it's checking it dynamically against those regulations. So when legal and compliance comes in, they can say, these are the 5 things that Warrant found wrong with this asset. Do we want to make these changes or not? It puts
Mm.
legal and compliance in a strategy role, which they always should be. These are the
Yeah.
experts, versus what they have been, which for a long time has been essentially a proofreader. They're
Right.
reading through, they're seeing is the right disclosure used, they're checking for absolute claims, things like always and never.
Mhm.
And instead, Warrant puts them in that strategy seat, which and gives them that shared language with marketing. In the past, they would say, you need to change this. And marketing would be like, why? They'd be like, you just have to.
And they're
But now
tugging in
you
different
have
directions, right? One's pulling you
exactly.
this way, one says, well, no, I disagree with that. I'm going to go in a different direction. So yours unifies the review of that.
Yeah, you can decide as a business, is this worth potentially this regulatory risk? Is it worth it to say free checking, even if we
Mhm.
know that we may charge overdraft fees? That's a decision at the business level versus what it's always been, which has been more at the individual level. And we've
Mhm.
actually started to see a lot of credit unions and financial institutions. They're now able to quantify marketing risk, which is crazy. We've always talked about security risk, vendor risk. We talk about
Right.
all these other risks to a business, but marketing risk never gets brought up, even though it's the number one way that your business could die. If you put out something that could get regulatory scrutiny, could get you sued, could become a class action, could you get you banned in the state of Texas, which happened to a fintech. That's a
Wow.
huge risk, and it's not one that's quantified today because none of this review process has ever had an audit trail.
So I'm amazed by so many aspects of that. One is that it's incorporating the regulations, not just kind of at scale from a banking regulatory perspective, but you're talking about it also takes state regulations into account as well.
Yes, we specialize in state-regulated industries.
So it sounds like your solution can be used both by institutions and other kinds of organizations like fintechs. Is that fair?
Yes, we are used today by various different financial institutions and those outside of financial spheres as well. And the reason for that is, like I mentioned at the beginning, every single company in the world has a checklist.
Mm-hmm.
And they've always had that checklist done and enforced in various ways that was not always the correct way. Warrant really, streamlines that approval process, and it allows you to check anything, whether it's a regulation, whether it's a company policy, whether it's a brand guideline, what colors are being used, what imagery, what is our social media influencer policy, what is the Olympics brand policy, which we're doing a partnership with, in one
Wow.
instance. So it really is dynamic and it can leveraged by any company. That's really my ambition for Warrant is it becomes this new software category very similar to Vanta or the security compliance software that used to come
Mm-hmm.
out. 10 years ago, Vanta wasn't even a thing. We didn't talk about SOC 2 regularly. And now that is the number one vendor requirement for every single enterprise. I think marketing compliance will be similar, especially as more and more of these companies start to leverage AI to generate material.
Right.
Now you don't have Susan, who's been at the credit union for 20 years and has a pretty good sense of what's allowed and what's not allowed. Susan's no longer creating the content. She's directing an AI to create the content. It's much riskier. There's a lot that AI doesn't know about your marketing. So the hope is that eventually with Warrant, we can, one, dynamically check it, but two, that AI will also be able to reference all of your approved marketing materials in a way that it couldn't otherwise. So we really think about Warrant as kind of this new software category that's going to
Mm.
enable marketers to be able to leverage AI and get things out same day in kind of this new world that we're entering into.
The speed change has got to be tremendous, right? Like I remember, working on a script for a commercial for a credit union, right? And just the process of negotiating and getting all that done took so long. I mean, even something as early as that's got to be a tremendous speed enhancement to the marketing engine for any institution.
Absolutely, because we're bringing that review forward. So, how marketing typically works in most financial institutions, but honestly, most companies in general, marketing creates a, draft scope document, then a designer, a copywriter, maybe a videographer, they create that content, then it goes for review once it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that's the hardest time to change anything. Your copywriters, your designers, they're doing other things now. You're going back to them and being like, hey, like, can you update that? It's been 4 weeks, but I need you to change these things.
Right.
But with Warrant, we have a chatbot interface for marketing within our product. So they can ask questions, they can upload things while they're still in draft and get feedback, go through variations with the chatbot to really understand, okay, what are the risks here? It brings compliance feedback and company policy feedback into the process of creating a marketing asset way earlier. And then that saves a ton of back and forth with compliance when it is more difficult to make those edits. So that's been a huge time savings for the companies that we work with that are our clients.
And I think this is a really great example because people are so afraid that AI is going to take jobs, but really what you're doing is you're augmenting the staff, right? You're giving them this ability to get opinions faster, to make decisions more quickly. What's the typical kind of impact you've seen once an institution starts using you? How much more quickly can they make decisions?
We're seeing approval flows go 80 to 90% faster
Wow.
within 6 months of using Warrant. And it makes sense because, if you're doing 51-minute ads every single month on Facebook, which would be kind of the standard for Facebook to understand and really start generating ROI from those ads, that's 51-minute videos that a compliance officer will probably watch 4 to 6 times during a review process. Now they don't need to do that. They can just see, okay, these are the videos that Warrant had an issue with. The issue is at this time and at this time. They have the transcripts. They can easily review those videos. So even without the pre-review, it's a huge time savings. But something we're also seeing is, to your point on augmentation, we're seeing marketing teams do 5 times more content than they did in the 6 months prior, because they're not spending a lot of their time and effort chasing down content. Have you reviewed this yet? Is it reviewed? What do we need to change? Designers, change this. All of that kind of stops, and they're able to really focus their time on, what do we need to do? What other content can we put out there? They're able to do more with that time savings.
So this isn't a thing though where you're going to run. I've got this really creative piece, and I really love it. And I'm, as a marketer, I've fallen in love with it, and I'm going to put it through this process. And what comes out the other side is kind of a bland, milked. You know what I mean? Safe. Everything is safe. Like, talk a little bit about kind of the how to maintain that voice, how to maintain that authenticity that's so important as we're trying to attract people's attention.
I think the biggest thing is, whereas in the past that might be a possibility because legal or compliance is telling you, hey, you can't do this. And then you kind of give up, you take the money emoji out of the video, it doesn't land as well. But but now you have that shared source of truth. You're able to negotiate with compliance and legal. You're able to make your case because you know exactly why you can't use that money emoji. You can't use that money emoji because it's restricted imagery under FINRA. But then you can make the argument. You could say, hey, this is for our checking account. It's not for our broker-dealer services. Would it be okay just this once, given that it's for checking? You're able to have these conversations that otherwise marketing has really never been able to have before. Unless it's Susan that's worked there for 20 years. She'll have learned it through osmosis. But I always like to say there is no book on marketing compliance. There's no book. So every single time I would hire, I worked at Mercury, I was early at Mercury, I was at Brex. We hired a ton of marketers during my time there. And it was really difficult to hire people into financial services marketing jobs because the regulations were so opaque to the marketing team. I was basically setting them up for like 3 to 6 months of like, figure it out. Like, it's going to be painful, but eventually
find the guardrails.
You'll start to know. Exactly.
Yeah.
We have these very strong black and white lines in financial services, but also in other regulated industries. But how we're doing marketing today is like, take a flashlight and go around in the dark and make something beautiful. And it must get new members and more loan volume.
Right.
It's not a great way to do this. And we're starting to see that transparency. It can be overwhelming at first, even using Warrant for marketers. They're like, oh my God, I got like a 60 out of 100. Like, is this the worst asset I've ever created in my life? But over time, we really start to see them understand the regulations and the company policies. It really is that checklist that has always lived within someone's brain. And with a lot of financial institutions, compliance officers are retiring. The average age is 50 to 60. If they retire and no one has a checklist like this for marketing reviews, it's going to be really, really difficult to maintain the same level of compliance quality and risk tolerance when you have that kind of turnover.
One of the things about, marketing, especially in today's world with social media, is that presumably every employee could pick up a phone and start posting something on LinkedIn or something else, right? That may have elements that the institution or the organization, doesn't like. Talk to me a little about how can Warrant help an organization extend the opportunity for people to talk about the brand without stifling it?
Yeah, it's definitely important. It's funny that you say that, Kris, because we talk to compliance officers all day that tell us that their employees are not posting on social about the company.
Mm-hmm.
And then we pull up LinkedIn and we show them that they are.
That's right.
And the regulators can see that too.
Right.
Some of these sectors, not all of them, but a decent amount of them, it's highly regulated what an employee can post on behalf of the company or in relations to company products on social media. It's similar to marketing. Marketing doesn't know what they can and can't say, and most of your employees don't know that either. Even if they took a really beautiful test, like a Series 7,
Right.
they might have forgotten it. They didn't pay that much attention to that part of it. So really with Warrant, we are continuously building out our social media advocacy feature, which basically allows company employees, loan officers, maybe, someone in HR to really start to post about the company. We have generation abilities, so you could generate a post that is, taking into account your position, your job title, what you want to talk about. You can also reference news articles as well. And then we'll tell them exactly what they might need to change and then route it for compliance. But the biggest thing here is the monitoring, being able to have a record that this is a post about the company. Now, of course, it's about Susan's new baby. It's not that relevant, but you do want to really make sure you're monitoring those posts that are product specific. Things like lowest rates or any kind of claims, even job postings. These are highly regulated surfaces. And you're going to want to have that monitoring to comply with certain regulators. Obviously, it depends on your regulator, but makes it really easy because today, a lot of compliance officers, I'm not kidding you, Kris, they are using Excel to do monitoring for social media.
I'm sure that's well integrated as well.
Because links never break. I've never had a link
never,
break.
never. Well, it sounds like a pretty amazing product. I want to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, right? So you're working in marketing, you're struggling with this. Talk to me a little bit about that moment when you said, I've got to do something about this.
I don't know if there was a specific moment. I think I had a really interesting career in fintech. I think just because of when I joined and the companies that I was able to work for. So I saw it time and time again, how necessary it was to get things out with speed. And I saw that because it was killing me and my team every time we had to move with speed because we didn't have any of the infrastructure to do so, even though we were working at some of the top fintechs. And, Kris, like me, you work with a lot of credit unions and community banks, and they look at fintechs and they're like, they move so fast.
Right.
But no, they don't. They just move slightly faster. For instance, at Capital One, I was part of the Venture X launch. That was the first very large premium travel credit card launch in a while. And we had to go across a lot of different channels that that Capital One had never really explored before. Things like doing an influencer marketing event around a balloon festival. That was the first time a major bank had started to leverage influencers. And then, at Mercury, I launched their IO credit card. We were a neobank built on other banks, and now we're launching another bank card on top of another thing. Very interesting from a regulatory perspective, very hard to untangle. No one had ever done it before, or not at that scale. And then at Brex, I joined Brex as the head of banking marketing 2 weeks before the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, which was a huge windfall for us. I got pulled out of orientation, and then they were like, what do we do? And I was like, not quite sure. We can update everything to talk about safety. And, those updates that we made that weekend, I think it was about $5 billion in AUM in less than a year. at Brex because of that one crisis, but it was only possible because we basically had to have compliance, legal, copywriting, designers, and myself. We were all on a Zoom all weekend. I
Right.
don't even know if we slept. I assume we slept at some point, but that was the level of coordination we needed to move at speed.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous. Like, we really, we really needed that infrastructure. And I think I see that time and time again. Like, there was a lot changing, especially in financial services on both the regulatory side with this current administration, being
Mm-hmm.
able to really understand, how can we go into crisis mode and what does that look like? And do we have the infrastructure to be able to quell 40,000 panicked customers if needed? Is
Right.
something that I wish more banks and credit unions and fintechs started to think more about, because it's going to be really, really important in the next couple years and months.
Yeah, when you're on the other side of an event and the phone lines are going down because you're getting so many phone calls and you can't communicate out, right? What you say and how you say it has to be fast, and it has to be really, really impactful so that you can resume regular operations at some point, right? It really is. There's still a point though where you said, I'm going to build something, right? I'm going to sit down with some friends. Maybe I do it myself. Maybe I do it with friends. Did you seek out partners right away? Did you start sketching something out? Like, how did you start building Warrant?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're almost at the 2-year mark. So the first couple months are a little fuzzy. Um,
It's true. True. Again, true for all founders, Austin.
um, I think for me, I had just celebrated 2 years at Brex, and at Brex, we had done such crazy things over the course of 2 years. Like, the Silicon Valley Bank was at the very
Mhm.
beginning, but at the end, we had relaunched banking, we had done revenue management and bill pay, and I felt
Mhm.
like I was kind of drawing to the end of my career at Brex. So the answer was, do I go to Ramp, which is the last one of the trifecta that I hadn't
Mm.
worked at,
Yeah.
and do more startup marketing? Um, or do I actually, bite the bullet and become a startup founder, which I had been marketing to at that point for almost 4 years. And I decided to try. So first, we built the original version of Warrant with an offshore developer just to
Mhm.
see if it was even possible. Remember, this is 2 years ago.
Yeah.
ChatGPT wasn't that strong yet at checking things like this. It was
Right.
very difficult to build. That's what I always tell people about our tool. It sounds so simple. It's a checklist and AI will check it. It's
It's
not
never that
as
easy.
simple as it seems. There are about 18 layers, and we're finding new layers every day. And
Mhm.
that's because marketing regulations themselves are, I like to say, it's like a bed of sand. So
Mm.
you really need a tool that's going to be flexible and easy to change as your company and the regulations themselves change.
Mhm.
Um, so we built the first with an offshore developer. Then we went through Techstars. Techstars was great because
Mm.
we had no idea what we were doing, and it was very early in the
Yeah.
product life cycle. Went through Techstars and then raised our pre-seed, and then launched our original product in April, so a little bit over a year ago. And then in January, we rebuilt the entire product for the third time, and then almost immediately onboarded Fortune 500 companies, which I highly recommend doing when the product is a month old. But all of our learnings from the original products are what
Right.
enabled us to really build that new marquee product that is performing so well. And a lot of that learnings comes around record keeping and audit trail. Like, how can
Mm.
we be, the first ever audit trail for marketing and really be able to surface marketing compliance risk to marketers, to lawyers, to the board, and obviously to the compliance managers, so everyone can do their job a lot faster, with a lot less stress and animosity.
Did the signing of large clients and the growth of your client base result in a subsequent increase in the size of your team, or have you been able to leverage some of the AI tools that are there to help you actually grow your business while maintaining your efficiency?
Absolutely. We have definitely maintained our efficiency. We're still to this day only a team of 7, but we have grown quite a bit. So in January, I believe we had a team of 4.
Okay.
So
So
we were
you're
signing
moving on
Fortune
up.
500s with a team of 4. But I think, how has that changed? 2 years ago, our team would look substantially different. We would have
Mm,
had mostly engineers and maybe one other person besides me that was
right.
focused on the operations side. But
Mm-hmm.
now, our team is pretty much 50-50 engineers and then legal and compliance. We
Mm-hmm.
really offer that handheld service, especially during implementation to our customers, to
Mm-hmm.
help them develop that checklist. Because remind you, the checklist has never existed.
Mm,
It might exist somewhere, but
right.
unlikely. So a lot of what we do during implementation is really making sure that we're putting that best possible checklist into Warrant.
How long until an organization starts to see the results? So you go through the implementation process, you're adding the checklists in. Are they starting to see those results immediately?
I would say marketing sees the results immediately
Mm,
because they're immediately getting feedback that is unlike any that they've ever received.
right.
They're used to getting prescriptive feedback.
Right.
Remove this, can't say this, change this image. Now they're getting feedback that says change this image because a money bag is a restricted imagery under FTC and you might want to replace it with, a cloud or,
Mm-hmm.
a rainbow or something. So they're getting that feedback immediately that they wouldn't have otherwise. And that's going to give them that single source of truth to really talk to legal about, should they change this asset and why. So they're seeing that immediately.
Hmm.
Compliance, typically, they've never used this checklist before. And as we all know with checklists, best laid plans. So what our tool does is it learns from the feedback that compliance is giving. So usually in about 3 weeks, it starts to reflect the actual reality of the business,
Mm,
which is what is okay and what's not. And it's learning based on the feedback that compliance is giving those scans. We have that beautiful like thumbs up, thumbs down that is so helpful. Um, so usually in about 3 weeks or so, that compliance scan is going to be very accurate to what compliance would expect a
right.
kind of junior compliance officer to do when they reviewed an asset.
Austin, if somebody wants to learn more about Warrant or to contact you about how to work with you, how do they reach out to you?
Absolutely. They can book a time to chat with us on our website at hellowarrant.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you. And you really are building quite an interesting business.
Yes, absolutely. We're excited about the ability to really create a product that is loved by marketers and compliance and legal. I don't think anyone has ever said that they loved a compliance solution before. So we're really excited about what we're able to do for
Yeah, that
our
is certainly
clients.
a unique Venn diagram that you're creating. Friends, my mama said there would be days like this. Here we are at the end of our episode, thanking Austin for the amazing job she's doing and for being a guest on our show and sharing her story with us. As we do that, we're losing power, having a storm, losing the internet, fire trucks are outside, the world's going crazy. You know what shouldn't be crazy? Marketing compliance. Check out Warrant. Austin, thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you for staying with us. If you like this content, please like and subscribe on your platform of choice. Thank you for being here. We will see you next time.